Hi class, this is Mr. Tan, and today we are doing hospitality and finance, and we're looking at 1.2. Now 1.2 says evaluate the contribution made by a range of methods of generating income within a given business and services operation. So I say that again, evaluate, keyword here, evaluate means to look at the pros and cons, the advantages and disadvantages of the contribution made by a range of different ways of generating income within a business, in a given business and services operation. So you must be talking about a specific business, and you may be giving a specific business in your case assignment, and it must be in the services industry. It could be hotels, in catering, in a restaurant. So it must be in the service industry. Now, then we need to say to ourselves, what are a range of methods of generating income? Well, different methods of generating income includes looking at using retained earnings from the business, looking at commission, how we can get commission in the business, how we can use sponsorship in the business, how we can use sales from the business, and or additional sales in the business. So we're looking at a range of different methods, including sponsorship, commission, sales, subletting, using retained earnings. And it must be, as I said before, in relation to a specific business, and it must be in the service industry. So when we're looking at each one, you need to explain firstly what each one is. If we took, for instance, subletting, and in our example that we were discussing in LCCA, you had a restaurant or an event management which you had to choose. So most students chose a restaurant. And one of the ways, if you had one of the ways of generating more income within the restaurant, if you had rooms above and you're renting out the whole building, including the restaurant space below, you could rent out or sublet rooms. And subletting those rooms could bring you in more income, which is an advantage for the business because it may not be rooms which you're using. But the disadvantages of subletting can include, having more people coming in and out of the business. Is there access to these subletting rooms, or do they need to come through the restaurant? And also, how much hassle and inconvenience is it? And also, by you subletting that space, you're in fact taking that space away from utilising that space for other means. So again, you have to weigh up the pros and cons of subletting a room, which you may already have spare to generate income. If you talk about commission, you could say, well, how could we gain commission from a restaurant? Well, what you could do is stock other people's products without buying those products and letting customers buy those products in store. So if it was a restaurant, it could be maybe ingredients or other goods that you want to sell in the restaurant that you're not actually buying, but you're stocking other people's products, and for each one that's sold, you gain a commission out of it. The good thing about this is that it's not really costing you anything to do, and for every time you sell something, you're gaining more sales or gaining more commission from the sales. So that's good. But the downside is, how much more time does this take? It takes a lot more time, and are you generating the amount of sales that you need, or commission from the sales that you need to justify the time spent selling it? Because if your staff are now selling these other products, it's taken away from the jobs that they're actually doing within the restaurant. So again, it's weighing up the pros and cons of these, if it's actually worth it and it's justified. You've got sponsorship. Sponsorship is where you sponsor another company or business's product, brand, logo, name, and you're in effect endorsing that product. So you could have in your restaurant a Nike or another goods or services within your restaurant that you're actually promoting. And again, the advantage is that you're gaining more revenue from that sponsorship. But the downside is, how relevant is it to your business, and does it connect with your business without making your business look tacky? And also, if there are any negative repercussions with the sponsorship, then those negative repercussions could actually also affect the image and reputation of your business. Another area of generating income is to use retained earnings. What are retained earnings? If we remember that in the income statement or profit and loss account, you have your sales minus your cost of goods sold, gives you your net profit. From your net profit, you take away your administration charges, which gives you your net profit. Then you take away any interest charges that you may have, deduct any government taxes that you may have, any dividends to shareholders, and what you are left with are retained earnings. Retained earnings are the profit that's left from the business after all the expenses have been taken out, including interest charges, including government taxes, and also dividends to shareholders if there is a dividend paid out for that financial year. The good and bad side is that, on one hand, you're using these within the business, which is depleting away from your equity. So you may not have that cash if you're using this money, but at the same time, if you've got all this equity and you're not using it, then there could be an argument for saying you're underutilizing the cash resources that you have in the business. So again, using retained earnings, there are pros and cons. So, when we're looking at this question, evaluate the different methods of generating income within a specific business and service industry, well, it must be a specific business and it must be in the service industry, evaluating where you're looking at the pros and cons, and then, look at about 3 or 4 different ways of generating income, state the pros and cons as regards to your business that you're looking at. Okay, so I hope that has been helpful today from Mr. Tan. I'm actually sitting in some beautiful gardens in Streatham Common. So at the top of Streatham Common, there's these beautiful gardens. And what we're going to do is we're going to have a little walk around so you can see. Gardens are so nice.
Just put a massive bet on Louis. Maybe.
sure I don't take any money out, but he wouldn't remember to get it.
Absolutely beautiful here in these gardens. If you ever get a chance to come to Stretton Common, then I would well advise you to come to the top and walk around these beautiful gardens. Thank you today from Mr. Tan.